Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good to see all of you. We're going to get kicked off here. And after some introductions, we'll get to some of the ground rules and administrative considerations and get this panel discussion going. We're excited to be here with you this morning. And I'm going to invite Anthony Cason, who's a Senior Vice President of Workforce Continuing Education for Wake Tech, to come and say a few words to kick us off. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
So I just want to welcome you here this morning. I know most of you are taking our programs right now. I just want to say to you that this is a great event. We're very happy to be partnering with Fifth Third Bank in this Business and Barber Summit. So I want to tell you that I've said this to many students in your position, that you're in a great program. You're going to learn a great skill, whether it's cutting hair, doing hair, but it's more than just that skill you're going to learn. If you're going to be successful in business, there's some other core principles and tenets that you have to follow in order to be successful, okay? Being good at your craft is great, but you have to know the business component of it as well, and those tenets that are going to make you successful so that you can be into the game for the long term. So I want you to be very attentive today, listen to all the great content that we're going to have from the team here, from the staff here, and what we're going to learn throughout the day, because it's going to help you in the long term for your career. I want you to know that we had a natural hair student who participated in our launch program and has won monies to help her business. And I saw her presentation last night, and she had a list of things on why people in the natural hair care business are not more successful. The things she had listed were some basic things, but that a lot of people don't follow. And none of that stuff even related to business plan, business loans, what you need to do to make your business stable. The important part that I'm trying to get to you is that learn today. Some great information will be shared because we want you to be successful. We're teaching you the classroom portion. You're going to learn some business things today because that's the other part of that equation. So I want to welcome you here today. I think you're going to learn a lot. I know we'll have some more people trickling in as we get through the day, but welcome again, and best of luck to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. And Chris Weeks, Director of Entrepreneurship, please come to the stage.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Chris Weeks, Director of Entrepreneurship here at Wake Tech. My area of responsibility is working at the Entrepreneurship and Small Business Center, where we work with the community as well as students in providing programming for entrepreneurs. I wasn't going to show up this morning because I haven't been to a barber shop or beauty salon in about, 10 years or so. But then I figured maybe there's some other stuff that we needed to talk about. And one of them, VP Cason talked about. Last night we gave away $70,000 to small businesses in the community and here at Wake Tech. Wow. And that $70,000 goes directly toward what you need to do to build your business and get things going in that capacity. And we put programming on similar to this and partnerships like with Fifth Third and also throughout the community. If you're in the Wake County community, we have a program called the Launch Program, which is in all 12 municipalities here in Wake County. And it gives you a lot of what they're talking about today in depth. It's a 10-week course that culminates with 6 months of mentoring. And then ultimately you end up in the accelerator program and possibly an incubator program. We have a natural hair salon in Crabtree called Trey Life or Tress Life that was birthed out of our launch program and then went into our incubator program. And now she has 1,500 square feet of salon space where she's providing natural hair care services in Crabtree Mall. So our ecosystem is designed to start here, start at the beginning, ensure that you're getting the technical components of what you're doing, and to become the best barber or hairdresser or whatever capacity you're going to work in, and then also get the business components to ensure that you're really built to do what you need to do. More importantly than that is, as I think back to what my first experience with entrepreneurship was, and I'm from New York, and in New York, the center of the community, and it's probably everywhere, but the center of community is the barbershop. You go to the barbershop, and every 35, 45 seconds, someone pops in and tries to sell something, right? So when someone's popping in, back in the day, it was a CD. It was, you name it, there was something to sell. Candy bars, I used to sell candy bars and everything. It is a hub for entrepreneurship. So when you go into your shop, whether you're going in as an employee or whether you're going in and opening your own, remember that there's a rich history surrounding your industry and the importance of entrepreneurship, particularly in communities of color. So appreciate that. Take the knowledge that's available now here at Wake Tech, at the Small Business Center, through the entrepreneurship programs, and maximize it, because you really are at the beginning of an incredible journey. So I wish you all luck. Any questions, sbc.waketech.edu is where we're at. Come see us. We got a lot of good stuff happening, a lot of resources, a lot of great education. And also, as I mentioned, last night we gave away $70,000. So we have real money as well. So y'all enjoy the program. Thank you, Fifth Third.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. So I just want to add a quick anecdote following up on in his comment about the social aspects of barbershops or cosmetology centers, that sort of thing. About 25 years ago, I'm a banker, and I was looking for a place to get my hair cut. And one of my coworkers sent me to a particular barbershop in Greensboro where I worked. And the interesting thing is, these are old school barbers, and the quality of my haircut varied over time. Some days it was great, some days it was a little less great. But the thing that kept me going back there was the news that went through that shop. There were a lot of folks from banking and finance and business that went to that shop. And I actually found out my boss was being promoted and relocated to Virginia before it was announced in the company, because my barber told me, because he heard it from others. And so my point in sharing that with you is that there's a lot more to an environment like that than the practitioner providing a service. There are other ancillary things, whether it's selling other merchandise and that sort of thing. But interesting that the social aspects play such an important role. So I'm Preston Bergen, and I'm the market president for Fifth Third in the Triangle and the Triad. And what that means is that I lead our operations across the Triangle and the Triad. And I would just tell you that we are a bank that is very ambitious about our growth. You've seen our new branches pop up. We'll continue to do that. We have 20 that are open now. We have 5 more scheduled to open this year. And our branches really span the Triangle from Wake Forest over to Chapel Hill and everywhere in between. So hopefully you see us. The other thing I thought I'd mention is that I'm really glad to be here this morning because I was a product of the community college system. I grew up near Greensboro and attended Rockingham Community College. From there, I continued my education and got an undergraduate degree from UNCG. Then after working a few years, got my master's at Chapel Hill. So my point is, a lot happens here, a lot that drives our community and our state. And I would argue it's not fully appreciated by those people who don't get to sit in the seats and that sort of thing. So I'm a strong advocate for the community college system. And I'm relatively new to Raleigh, about 18 months from Greensboro. And my impression of Wake Tech is really remarkable. Among community colleges, Wake Tech is like a rocket ship with all the programs and campuses and that sort of thing. So congratulations for being part of the system. Congratulations for continuing to learn and further your education. And a piece of advice I would give you as somebody who's well seasoned is that I encourage you to try to learn every day. Always be learning more, because it'll enrich your life and allow you to accomplish more. Now, we have a really impressive group of financial professionals here today that are going to share a lot of knowledge and experience with you. But I want you to be aware we'll have sort of staged presentations and questions, but we'd really like to make this more of a conversation. So if you have a question or a comment, raise your hand. You can interrupt us, but we'd love to hear your questions, your experiences, because it'll make the conversation richer, and we'd love to have your interaction. So with that, we'll invite our panelists to introduce themselves, and I'll start with my colleague, Grace.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? All right, so thank you again for inviting us here. My name is Grace Pruse. I'm the Financial Center Manager at Fifth Third Bank located in Hayes Barton. You guys know where that is? Hayes Barton? Not a lot of people do. It's sometimes known as 5 Points, but it's close to downtown Raleigh. And I've been in the financial services industry for over 22 years. And I started banking at first because I wanted banking hours, but I thought I could get off around 2, but that's not the case anymore. But what I really love throughout the years is building relationships with people. I love sitting down with people one-on-one and helping them with their financial goals, setting their budgets, setting their what they want to accomplish this year and next year, because everything revolves around money. And it's just the people that I meet and build relationships with. That's what I'm very passionate about.
Thank you, Grace. Denica?
Hello, my name is Denica Seymour. I'm a financial professional, and I'm also the CEO of Digi Discoveries. What that is a DEI-based business development and consulting firm. What we do is we help minority businesses build, scale, and grow their businesses. We help in the funding aspect, on alternative funding. Sometimes you haven't been in business for more than 2 years. So lots of those times it's hard to get loans because you haven't had that experience. So what my company does is we seek out those funding for those specific companies that haven't been in business very long, and they need some additional assistance in doing that, right? Not only that, we help on the aspects of just making sure that the marketing is right. We're making sure that you're making the right connections, you're getting into the right rooms. You're able to have those seats at the table where people can actually see you. And also there's representation for you. Building a network is something that is so important to do. Without that network, it's hard to be able to get from point A to point B, right? And there's people that have been doing this a lot longer than you have. So you want to step in the room with those folks and listen to them and keep growing and understanding, how it's done so you can emulate those things. So, and also, I am connected with Mass Mutual North Carolina. I've connected with them about 3 years ago in order to bring financial equity to minority clients, business clients, and also individuals as well.
Thank you. Folks, my name is Josh McNamara. I just wanted to thank everyone for allowing me to speak with you today. I'm an attorney. I practice out of Raleigh. And our office, our company is Shipman & Wright, based out of Wilmington. I lead the Raleigh office, and I specialize in business matters, mitigation, finance, and pretty much any regulatory matter you're going to experience as you are navigating your new career. I'm really honored to be here and excited to talk to you today about different things as it relates to you embarking on your new career and entity structures and ways to create and grow your business safely while minimizing some of your liability exposures. So I invite you to please ask questions, and I'm going to hand out some cards at the end of this. And I, again, will encourage you to please reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to take time for you at no charge to get you up to speed and direct you to some resources. It's very difficult in the early stages to know where to begin, and I would be honored to do that. So looking forward.
Hello, y'all. My name is Jessica Osborne, and I'm the agency owner of Brightway Insurance, the Osborne Agency. We are a local independent insurance agency here in the Raleigh area, located off of Creedmoor Road. We have been in business since August of 2017, so we hit our milestone 5-year mark. If you know anything about business, that's huge. And when I say independent, what that means is we represent more than just one carrier. So what that allows us to do is really shop the market for you guys to find the best price as well as coverage for your business insurance.
Good morning. My name is David Strunsky. I'm the business banker for Fifth Third here in the Triangle. I help business customers both through the branch system supporting them, and then also other business customers. Probably, I guess the best way to look at it would be between 2 and 40 million in revenue. And then I support the branch system in anything below that. I come to the bank from a little bit of an out-of-box career path, if you will. I came from food and beverage. I owned a restaurant before I got into banking. Actually, it's my background that helps me today, because as it's been mentioned, a lot of people that are entrepreneurs are very passionate about what they do on an everyday basis, but the minutia of the day-to-day may not be their favorite or may not be something that they are really passionate about, and that's where I add value, is at giving them ways or resources to get those things done and then still align their passions with what they do every day.
Thank you. My name is Brian Summers, and my background is twofold. I am a Navy. I was in the Navy in Arizona, of all places. No water in Arizona, none. So when you think about the Navy, you think about ships. I was never on a ship, and which was really interesting. It makes me a really interesting guy. So I was out in Arizona. I got out of the Navy and opened a real estate firm. Arizona has 3% or less of the demographics of people that look and talk like me, 3% minus. And so opening a business in that environment, to tell the truth, was 97% failure rate. 97% failure rate. If I had to depend on people that look like me, talk like me. You guys get what I'm saying? Okay. But I want you to know that business thrived. It took off. And in '96, I sold that company, moved here from Arizona to North Carolina, took a year off because I was able to afford it because of selling that business. I had a passion for helping people, so I decided to do another flip, and I got on the financial side. I looked at that. How many people look like me, talk like me, is in the financial arena? Look at this panel up here. You understand what I'm saying? So for me, it's always been a thrill to do the 97% fear. Because every one of you guys, every one of you have an opportunity to beat those odds. Every one of you. If I can do it, you can do it. Are you with me? Yeah, and that's why you're here. And that's why we want to share some things with you, because you can do this. You can build a successful business, not only for you, but for your family, for generations to come. just apply a little of what we're going to talk about. Have it be a part of who you are and take off with it, because we're here to help you. You're not by yourself. You're never by yourself. We're here to help you, and if we can help you in any kind of way, please, please let us know. Brian Summers, Fifth Third, here to help you at the 97%. All right.
Thank you. So, as you can see, we have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience up here, and we look forward to sharing it with you. And the way we'll do this is we'll start with Denica this morning, but each of these panelists will share some knowledge and some experience and advice in their area of expertise, and then we'll ask questions and we'll invite you to ask questions, that sort of thing. So I'm anxious to kick off, but I got to tell you, with some of these stories, a lot of people's progression is not in a straight line. It's not the way we all plan sometimes. And, I think part of it is just to keep plugging, right? That's right. And I often thought tenacity is probably more important than sometimes than skill or knowledge. Is just keeping at it and not being defeated. So we're going to kick off with Denica, and please take it away.
Sure. All right, so I'm going to start off by letting you know that when I first started my business, I had no money. I had no idea what I was going to do, but what I did know was I wasn't going to be working for anyone. Okay, so that's what I did know. I was with a corporation. I've been in corporate America for about 20 years before I started my business, and I knew when I heard God say to quit my job, that meant that I wasn't working for anyone. So that was a thing that I had to figure out. How was I going to build this business and figure out how to do it the right way, because I didn't want to fail, right? And that's so important, because you've put all this hard work in. You guys have sat in those seats and you've learned what you needed to do. Now you get out and you're able to now start something new. But before you do any of that, you have to lay the groundwork, to make sure that that business is successful. So for your business, there are really 4 stages to a business. So we started off, I wanted to show you these because lots of times people, when I ask them about the stages in their business, they think there's probably 3 stages: the beginning of the business, the middle of the business, and the end of the business, right? Well, there's actually 4 stages in a business. The first stage is a startup stage. Then we have the growth stage, maturity stage, and the transfer stage. So when you're in a startup stage of a business, you're really looking to get those startup things in place, the groundwork laid out. You're looking at creating a cash reserve for your business, because there's nothing crazier than if something terrible happens, now you have to shut down and you can't make money that way. So you need to make sure that there's some money set aside just in case something happens, right? So you put that money aside. And then we're looking at protecting the business from key employee loss. Sometimes when you're starting off by yourself, it's just you, right? If it's just you, what happens if you can't work? There's no money, right? Anybody, if you can't go to work tomorrow, who's going to pay your bills? Is there somebody there to pay your bills? If there is, send them my way, But if you can't work, so you have to make sure that all of that stuff is taken care of. You're looking at different ways to mitigate these risks, right? And then we have we're even looking at the beginning of the business. We're looking at what is that going to look like at the end of the business. So when you're starting off, you're trying to lay everything down. You're trying to think about things that happen before they happen. That's the only way that you're going to make sure that everything turns out the way that you want it, right? So, and when you're looking at the business succession, it says develop a transition plan. right? In case of death or disability, right? We know we're not going to be here forever. So you have to just do those things. And then we're also looking at your personal protection planning, your income stream, providing for your family just in case something does happen for you. And then we're looking at the employee benefits. If you're working and you're working for a company, usually they provide those benefits for you. But if you have your own business, you're gonna need benefits. You still get sick. You still need dental work. All of that stuff doesn't stop happening. So you have to make sure that those things are in place so you are able to actually go ahead and, take advantage of those types of things. The next is the growth stage of the business. So when we're talking about growing our business, you've been in business for a little while, but now you're really trying to grow that business. And it's all the same. If you take a look at it, it still says risk management, it still says business succession, it still says personal protection planning and employee benefits. They're all going to be the same, but you do just a little bit differently as the years move along. So as the years come along, you start needing more. Your business is growing now, right? You're expanding. You're trying to really scale that business to the next level. And there's so many ways to scale a business creatively, even when you have no money. There's so many ways to do that. And just sometimes we have to sit down and think about, okay, how are we going to protect ourselves and get ourselves going in the right direction as we grow? So we're expanding those things that we did before. We're expanding, we're going back, we're looking at everything that we put in place in the beginning. That doesn't mean you're gonna need the same thing that you did in the beginning. You've started to grow. So now that you're growing, needs are changing. You're getting more employees now, and you may have found that perfect employee in your business and you don't want them to quit. You have no idea what it's like right now to invest so much time in someone. You've invested your time, you've invested your money, you've invested resources in training someone, and then they up and say, you know what, well, I'm leaving. So there's things that you have to just make sure that those things have mitigation between them so you can keep those employees that you have that really mean something to you. And then the next, as you're going in your business succession, you're creating strong management teams, you're building everything out, your protection is getting more, you're thinking about retirement planning now because, at some day, you're not gonna want to stand on your feet all day. You're gonna want to, be on the beach somewhere hanging out. You're going to have grandkids. You're going to want to do things in your life that you don't want to be stuck in one place. You need to start thinking about those things at that time. I even say from the very beginning, start thinking about what you're going to do and how you're going to lay those plans out. And you're going to think about employee benefits. Even if you have a business and you're actually renting a chair, right? In that business, you're renting a chair. There may be employee benefits that you can offer those people. You can offer those people inside the company at a discount because you guys have pooled your resources together. So you just have to kind of look at those things. And then the next, I'm going to go to the maturity stage of the business. Everything is enhanced. We're enhancing the protection against the key employees. We're enhancing the business succession. You heard our colleague over here talk about him selling his business, right? You're thinking about, okay, I'm almost at the end here. I'm getting ready to go into succession, which is the transfer stage of the business. At that point, you've built this business, you built a name for the business, you have employees coming in, you have so many clients now, people know who you are. That business is worth something, right? So if you decide to transfer that business, you decide to sell that business, you may sell the business to someone else, outside of, your surroundings, somebody inside the shop, you might sell it to them, Or you might transfer the business over to a family member, your child, whoever might want to take over the business. No matter what you do, there's money involved in that. Even if you are selling that business, there's ways to set up to sell that business to a family member and fund that whole thing all the way from the beginning. You can start funding your buyout. As you fund your buyout, it allows your business to be worth more. And there's ways for those folks to pay you as it goes. So by the time you're able to transfer that business over, all the money is sitting inside an account, ready to transfer into your bank account. And all of that, it gets ready to transfer over. But those are just strategies that you work on from the beginning all the way to the end. And you're able to actually transfer that business out, make a great amount of money with that business, and hang out like him. He said he got to hang out for a year or so. How long? A year. Would you like to hang out for a year? Okay, yeah, so these things are just so important to take a look at all the way from the beginning to the time that you're transferring your business out. So I think, did anybody have any questions on the stages of the business or had a comment or maybe something that they didn't know?
Danica, I might point out I have a question for you,
Sure.
but I think what you articulated so well is if you're a sole practitioner, your needs for risk mitigation, employee benefits, it's a IRA, right? Because I'm
Right.
just by myself, or a SEP IRA if you have two other people. But if you build a bigger enterprise, a bigger shop or multiple shops, then it becomes a 401k plan.
Mm-hmm.
And my point being that as she has listed all the considerations, those evolve and change the older and the bigger the business gets. Is that a fair way to say it?
The older it gets, the bigger it gets, the more employees that are there, the more revenue that the business is bringing in, everything starts to evolve and change. You will see your business start at one point and it may grow to, 300-400 employees because you've opened up all of these stores. This happens. Right now you're sitting there, you haven't started yet, but if you can dream it, it can happen. If you want to open up a franchise for what your business is, if you have a thought in your mind, that you can actually do that, you can open up a franchise of beauty salons because it's special because of the way that you've set it up. You've made it in such a way that people want to visit those types of beauty salons, or they want to visit those types of barbershops because you've made those barbershops different than anybody else's. It's all about making yourself stand out in such a way that's really going to skyrocket your business. So as I move on the back end, because I am in business development, and consulting, I consult with business owners on causing their business to not be overlooked, not just a barbershop or not just a beauty salon, making it in such a way that people have to look at that thing because it's just so amazing on what it is. So, and that grows your business. As you do that, and as you start to move through the stages, it turns your business into something else. It turns it into an enterprise, right? And that's what I think lots of people want to do for their businesses.
I think another way to say it is you're building a brand.
Yes.
We all have a personal brand, but when your business grows, you develop a brand that's not necessarily connected with you personally, but it's a vision, a concept, and then that increases the value of the enterprise as well if it's a recognizable brand.
It does.
So one last question for me, and then I invite all of you. I am involved with so many business owners who think about growing sales, growing profits. They're driving, they're growing, and they're so focused on growth. And that growth can be measured in units, like in the case of a salon, how many salons they have, whether it's revenues, whether it's profit. but they often overlook, as you build something, the value increases. And if you're the owner, you want to preserve that value, protect it from eroding. If the business is dependent on you and something happens to you, you're disabled or die, then that value can evaporate. And so they tend not to fully appreciate the opportunity for risk mitigation, risk management in their, frankly, all the stages of business. And it's things like key man life. But you may speak to that a little bit, because I think you did a great job of pointing out risk management is as important as driving growth, right? The growth mindset.
It is. It's very important to mitigate your risk. Not only that, when you get your valuation done for a business, does anybody know what a valuation is? Yes, Rick. You know what a valuation is? It's really taking a look at everything that business owns and putting it together to come up with an amount on how much that business costs, right? And when you're looking at all these, insurances that you have, all those play a part in your valuation. If your business is insured for $20 million, that's going to play a part in your valuation. If you even have a disability, that's going to play a part in your valuation, because that's going to let them know if something does happen, there's a backup plan there. So that means that that business is worth something even more, right? So when you're looking at everything that you put aside for your business and everything that you set up to make sure your business is moving smoothly, not just, the branding, that's important, but everything on the back end, that makes your business who you are. That makes it what it's worth, okay? So even the name of the business, it's so many little pieces in there that can make your business even better, right? And make it even more profitable. You want it profitable from the beginning all the way to the end.
Thank you, Danica.
You're welcome.
I hope I haven't bored everyone already. Anyway, thanks again, folks. I have to say, this template is really fantastic. And I would presume that you're here because you're creative types and you like to interact with people. Is that a fair assessment? Excellent. So maybe you can help me. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I just want to understand, when you begin your career, where do you envision yourself working? Anyone want to volunteer? Where would your first job be? Would you be working in a salon? Would you be working in a barber shop? Please.
I graduated from Wake Tech in 2017.
Okay.
My first objective was to get in a shop that was busy, so that I could, build clientele and stuff like that. So through that journey, I was able to go from that to now I want to be in the suite. Kind of leave the shop alone so I can focus on my own brand.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask you this. When in this environment, were you working as a sole proprietor or an independent contractor? Because I'm going to talk about that a little bit to kind of help dial in the concept in the startup stage. And that's where I'm going to spend a little time to really dial in the concept of risk management. Because right now, what you're telling me you want to do is really put your public face out there and create a brand. And so that's very aggressive and absolutely fantastic. So along the way, you're going to have to think about some entity structures. And I use some funny words for this, but you're going to think about how you're going to create a business to insulate yourself from risk. And risk comes in many ways. It comes from an accident happening at work. It could happen from a product that you use on a particular client, a whole host of things. And so you have to think about that initially. Again, as I mentioned, you're obviously in a creative field, and it's very easy to get away from some of the more boring facets of a business. But in your environment, did you work as an independent contractor? Were you 1099, if you've heard that before?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
So, like I said, the shop that I was at, it was kind of, just building your own, working on your own brand, but still under somebody else's umbrella.
Did you have insurance?
No,
Okay. Okay.
no, I didn't. Like you talking about for like personal, like health insurance,
Well, liability insurance.
liability insurance. No,
Okay.
but
All right, so let's talk for a minute, and please be patient with me and raise your hands if you have a question, or note it, and we'll go back to it. The status that you were operating in as an independent contractor, the equivalent, there's different types of entities or businesses that you start out with. And everyone starting out right now, if you were to go to work tomorrow, is likely to start out as an independent contractor or what's called a sole proprietor.
Right.
Okay, a sole proprietor is just you going out there selling your personal services. It's a great way to start a business, but unfortunately in the startup stage, it comes with some risk. And in that sense, if you're working on someone as a 1099, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and let's say a product that you use on them causes a burn or causes an issue, you could potentially have some liability for that. And when you're a sole proprietor, you're individually and personally liable. So how do you protect yourself from that? And so there's a couple ways to do that, which I'll talk about in a second. Also, as a sole proprietor, I'm presuming you were working in the shop with other folks and you kind of shared clientele, I would assume?
yes, sir.
Okay. So sometimes when you cooperatively work together, you create what's called a partnership, okay? A partnership is similar to a sole proprietorship in the sense that you could have risk associated with it. You don't have an armor around you. You are personally liable. The worst thing about a partnership sometimes, without the armor of a legal shield, if you would, in the form of an entity, exposes you. And so think about this. You're two people carrying on a venture to do business together to help each other grow this client base. And your partner had a fun Friday night and oop goes the ear in the morning. So if you don't hold yourself out there, and you're chuckling if you have this happen. So I know there's a story here. You could potentially have liability for your partner's actions. So in those two scenarios, as a sole proprietor, you're using a product, or working with someone, you think they're on their game for that day, could expose you to liability. So at the lowest level, that's not the best form to have. So what do you do in that instance? You can create an armor around you. And there's a few ways to do this. And not to get too complicated with it, you can create what's called a limited liability company. And the reason you would want to do that for yourself is it's a mechanism. You can brand yourself by creating a name, okay, your public face. And this ties into everything that's playing out here from the startup stage, your brand, to creating the image, to creating the financial history, to deal with your lenders, your landlords, everyone. By creating a limited liability company, what you do is you come up with a concept, come up with your name, and you register it with the state of North Carolina. All it really does is it creates a person separate from you. And it gives the public notice that, listen, I'm conducting business here, I'm a creative person, but I'm telling you I'm attempting to limit my liability. Not expensive to do, to file with the state. They're probably $125 depending on the filing that you do. Well, what it gives you is some protections. It also gives you the ability to obtain a separate tax number, a separate person, if you would, and the ability to obtain insurance, which we're going to talk about here, and to develop a long history, a business history associated with that particular file that lets you grow and then monetize and eventually sell or phase out. That is one format that lets you limit your exposures. And so the biggest takeaway from that is you have to be very careful about the distinction between you and that particular brand, or you and the particular service that you're providing. And the way to do that would be to create a business entity. And it sounds kind of overwhelming, but it's really not. It's just doing business as, if you would. I'm going to operate under Blue Sun salons, and we'd create a formality, you can create a website, create tax structure with that. You can hire employees, and if you ever have a dispute, you're shielded to some degree. It also allows employees that would work for you to be eligible for unemployment and different things, because you would have to pay into it. I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Oh, please. My apologies. It's funny, I don't usually have that problem. My wife says I'm very noisy, so please, thank you. So with respect to creating the entity structure, you can create kind of a veil around that. And there's different forms that it takes. Does anyone have any questions about that concept of how you would interact in the initial stage to protect yourself from types of exposures, clients, products?
Josh, I would just add that use of an LLC can have some very favorable tax benefits.
Correct.
And so it's in addition to the liability protection, there are other benefits as well.
Well, that is correct. With respect to a limited liability company, there are some elections that you could make. With consult from a CPA, obviously, you can create the ability to structure it as a partnership, which is kind of a default recognition. You can create it where money flows through. There's ways to avoid forms of double taxation if you were to do a corporate structure. So depending on what needed to be done, there are certainly advantages to that. There's also the ability to have yourself as an employee, which is fantastic. And I'm glad you highlighted the concept of the LLC. When we talk about creating these types of business entities, there's not a lot of formalities involved with a limited liability company, just good record keeping. And that kind of factors into the concept of risk management and what you would want to do. And I may have cut you off. Did you have, you were about to ask something, I think, related to the independent contractor? What was there? Okay. So and I'll pass this on in a second, when you're talking about you're wanting to expand this and make this bigger, what do you envision your next step to be, since you have experience in this area?
The next step, I just feel like, being a barber,
Okay.
it's everything that I wanted. But my body is showing me things like, 5, 10 years from now, you might not be able to stand in that chair.
Okay.
But I still want to be around it.
Okay.
So to be around it, I want to create something where I have, and it doesn't have to necessarily be barbers or stylists. It could be estheticians.
Okay.
It could be massage therapists. It could be tattoo artists. It could be anything, that keeps me around it.
Let me ask you, in your current environment, you generally have the opportunities to brand and sell products. Do you sell products in connection with your services?
I haven't really got into it. I haven't got into it like I wanted to, but I've dibbled and dabbled. These are two of my
Your partners.
partners, yes. And
Hopefully you'll get along.
say what?
Hopefully.
Oh yeah.
That's good.
We
That's
definitely
good.
get along.
Well, that's the other benefit of actually forming a company, because you can have what's called an operating agreement, spelling out
Right.
everyone's roles and who gets to weigh in as to who hires the insurance company, who contracts for certain things. I didn't mean to cut you off. The reason I asked about the products, it's very interesting. So one of the things that you do here in North Carolina is you provide personal services.
Yes.
And generally, North Carolina likes to make tax dollars on certain things. Your services, which you're familiar with, are generally not taxed. So with respect to that, to some degree, when you sell products in connection with that, sometimes you do have to collect retail tax on a hair conditioner or something.
Right.
So record keeping is also very important with that. And one of the ways to also protect yourself from personal liability is to also form some kind of company or corporate entity to have that extra layer. It gives you one extra form of defense if you were ever audited or had a question regarding remitting sales and use tax or being accountable. Because generally, it's interesting, a lot of sole practitioners, sole proprietors, LLCs are generally audited. And so record keeping is probably one of the biggest things. Good compliance starts with really that risk management of creating that persona and the registrations with the state. And it's very linear in that sense because it creates a long timeline for you to be able to track and show to your lenders, to your landlords, to colleagues that want to invest in your business, that even want to join you as employees or independent contractors. I will pass this on in a second, but when we're talking about risk management, one of the things that you touched on with the 1099, and I will say this, be very cautious with that when you're working in these environments, especially if you are not going to form an LLC initially. Be very careful about how you work with people in your classifications. If you're controlling to a very good degree their workday, they could be deemed to be an employee. and that could subject you to some liability. So we can talk about that later, and I'd be happy to answer some questions. There's a bright line there that is very, very slippery. Sorry? Oh, great, yes, please. Oh, wonderful, thank you. Sorry, this is why I have the glasses. Thank you for pointing that out.
Good morning. So I think I just want to take more advantage of you that since
Sure.
we're all barbers and cosmetologists here.
Sure.
As far as business structures, I kind of did the LLC already.
Great.
And I'm still finding out that you could get taxed as an S corp.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still trying to figure that one out. And I think maybe if you could tell maybe the best way for all of us here, since we're all the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
what's the best way to go? LLC, S corp, put money here, do this, do that. I think that'd be easiest for all of us instead
Sure.
of making
Well-
it more general.
Well, all right, well, let me break those three types of concepts out to you. So a limited liability company is probably the easiest to structure, okay? In the sense you have the least amount of formalities. So you can have a single member LLC, which you probably have, I would presume. Do you have any other members? Okay, so in an LLC, unlike a corporation, you hear the term shareholder, an LLC will have members. So you can have a single member LLC. If there's two, the default classification for that with the Internal Revenue Service is that you're a partnership, unless you make an election. So in the case, your instance with an LLC, you can elect for a different type of taxation, either to be taxed as, depending on your structure, as a C corporation where you're a shareholder, or as an S corporation as a flow through, meaning you're not going to get doubly taxed. It gets very nuanced, but sorry, I'm moving fast for you.
So
No, you can keep going.
No. So
the thing I would point out is there are service providers like these folks.
Correct.
And there are very few people that are experts in all this stuff.
Correct.
It's almost impossible. And so it really comes down to identifying people that you like to work with that are competent among, there's a multitude, right? If you choose a banker, choose an insurance agent, an attorney, that sort of thing. And it requires an investment. And at the beginning stage of a company, money's tight.
correct.
But the point in some of these things is if you are aware and you plan, you can make sure you're positioned as well as you can. And then as your business grows and you have more money, you can, have a better healthcare plan, right? And I would tell you, if you have healthcare for yourself, it's very expensive, healthcare insurance. But if you have a pool of 10 employees, the per person cost goes down materially. And so that's just the benefits of growing a business, scaling. But we have about 4 minutes before we take a break.
So anyway, just to dial into that, the simplest form would theoretically be an LLC, and probably the least common structure, at least at the early stages, would be a corporate structure for a salon. So I'm more than happy to speak with you, aside from this, at no charge, to explain some things and connect you with these fine folks about entity structure. And was there another question that you had? Yep. And there was? Anyone? Did I bore you already? I know I'm not a likely client with this hairline, so. There you go.
Well,
Anyway.
no, basically the question was tax purposes, what
Yes.
would be for the benefit of the new owners between the C Corp and the S Corp?
Well, that's going to be interesting, and that's going to be probably beyond the scope of this particular panel. I'll speak with you after that, or at the end of this, to explain it. You have two different types of contexts. One is related to shareholders, one is related to flow through. But I'll speak with you separately about it. I want to keep it on point for this. Folks, thank you.
We got one more.
Oh, wonderful, please.
Hello, good morning. My question is, when you have insurance for your business, does it offer the same borrowing power as like a life insurance policy would for a personal person? Is that an option where you can have insurance policies that you can borrow against for a business?
That's a fantastic question, and these two are.
I can answer.
All right, so it does not. So when you're looking at, let's say, a life insurance policy, depending on what type of policy that you have, there's two types, but there's thousands of variations within those two types. So you have the term insurance, which is like you are renting your insurance for a specific amount of time. And once your lease is up and you need to get a new one. Or you have the permanent insurance, which is a whole life insurance, where you would be able to keep that insurance and it's as long as you pay it, or you can actually pay it all at once and never have to pay it again. Just depends on the way you structure that insurance. Those particular, that type of insurance would allow you to actually put money in and have money left over, a cash value in that insurance. And lots of times, and I remember Preston mentioning about, a SEP IRA and 401k and those things. Lots of times, you're in a place where you're not able to get those things just as yet. You may not make a specific amount of money, or, it's not worth it to you. You could put money inside your whole life insurance policy, and you can mitigate, any of these types of things with that whole life insurance. So if you keep putting money in, that money is growing in a specific percentage, the value on that keeps going up. You're able to borrow from that money, and it's your money that you're borrowing. So you can pay yourself back, or you may decide not to pay yourself back, right? It just depends on, how you're doing it and why you're doing it. And the way that you structure that is all going to depend on what your needs are. If you're looking to put money in, so one day you can actually use that money to actually pay for the transfer of your business. You can actually pay for your business succession plan with a life insurance policy. And the way that you do that is, specific on what you're doing. But if you structure it the right way, by the time it's time to transfer that business, all of the money is already in there.
So I'm going to call timeout. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a 15-minute break, and we're going to start with Jessica, who's our insurance expert, to continue this discussion. So I encourage you to share your questions, and we'll get started and at a 10:15. All right, we're going to get started. And I'm very excited to introduce a guest speaker to kick off the second half of our discussion. So I'm going to invite Roger White to the stage. And Roger is a successful barber, entrepreneur, business owner, and has a lot of experience to share with you about his journey and how he's achieved success. So with that, Roger.
Good morning, everyone. I want to first thanks to God for allowing me to be here today to share my story with you and to give back. Also want to thank Fifth Third Bank, Brian Summers, and also Daryl Gant for inviting me. Wake Tech as well, and other panelists. I'm a native of North Carolina. Been here actually in Raleigh now for 29 years. I've been a barber for 28 years. Been in ownership for 13 years now. It's been a very rewarding career. And as I mentioned today, I will share it with you.
So I want to thank you for giving this opportunity to stand before you. And one of the first things I want to share with the students is the importance of being on time. That speaks for you before you enter the door. It provides opportunities like this as well. And also today, I'm gonna be speaking about someone who I don't speak a whole lot about in public, which is myself, because I try to keep my head down, stay focused, stay driven. But when you grow and people give you opportunities and give to you, you then have to get to a place where you have to share it with other people. One other crucial point that I would like to mention is finding a good church home. There are multiple benefits to it, spiritual growth, and opportunity to market yourself, market your business. That's probably one of the biggest places you'll find that will help you in your business and growth for your business. Parents, mother and father are also great people who pour their all into you, and you have to then pour yourself into others to help them grow. I'm going to try to incorporate 20 years into 10 minutes. So all the students, be prayerful. I ask God to direct your path when selecting your future place of employment. It's very crucial. You want to make sure you're going somewhere where you can grow and that that person will help nurture you and whatever vision you might have for yourself and moving forward in your life. Because sometimes with not picking the right place, it can be toxic for you and for your potential growth. So be mindful of not picking the hot place to go work. Pick a place where you can learn from that owner who can show you how to carry yourself, how to improve your professional skills, and come there with the right attitude. Growth is important, but it starts in your mind first. You have to want your dreams to come true in order to reach your destination. So back in 1995, I went to Harris Barber College. November 1994 through July 1995. The instructors there were the late Reverend Stone and Tobias McLean. I enjoyed my instructors. I enjoyed my time there. I was actually given a task of being the student manager there to overlook some of the students, or all of the students, which included making sure the place was clean, making sure all of the guests who came in were served properly. And like now, I know you guys are being taught about hair by Mr. William Graham on how hair is nourished and how it is nourished through your blood and the blood vessels. And the other thing about being a barber and a hairstylist, you'll learn that you will not only perform those services, but you will also be a counselor to your clients. There come times where clients will share information with you and take that as a pleasure that you're able to talk with them and counsel them, because it's going to come up, and it's important to just be aware of your surroundings and people, and that you can be helpful to them, other than providing a great haircut or a great hairstyle for them. It's confident. And then you also find yourself getting information from them, whether it's personal or business related. Relationships are very, very important to culture because they get you into doors and at tables that you might not get to if you're being closed-minded. So open your mind up to grow relationships, be friendly to everyone, say hello, say goodbye. You never know who's watching you, so make sure you are just being aware of your surroundings and the people you're working with and people you're working for, your clients. Okay, so back in the 1800s, barbers fulfilled a lot of roles other than giving haircuts and shaves. They also did light surgery in the fashion of pulling teeth, setting, when people would break bones, they would wrap it up, hang nails. They covered a lot. So the pedigree and the heritage of a barber goes deeper than just a haircut. Okay, so starting my career, which started in 1995, I worked at Blaylock's Barbershop, downtown Raleigh. I learned quite a bit there from Mr. Blaylock. The first week that I worked, I made $1,000, over $1,000, which was very good for someone just coming out of barber school for their first week. That was a great place to start off and a great person to work with. It goes back to the professionalism that I learned from him, people skills. And the second place I worked, I started in June of 1996. The second place, I increased my cutting skills and customer service skills as well. Newkirk's, I don't know if I mentioned it. The name was Newkirk's. Here, I was given a unusual detail, but bathroom detail from the owner. He's prior military. I dealt with it, kept the place in good condition. It wasn't something that I thought I would do, but in spite of myself, smaller tasks lead to bigger opportunities. Remember that. Smaller tasks lead to big opportunities. When you're asked to do something at your place of employment, you never know who those duties, you never know what those duties are preparing you for. So learn them and do it with a smile as you love it. Okay. So Mr. Newkirk retired, and before he retired, a client of mine said to me, "Roger, I think it's time for you to own your own place." At that time, I didn't think I was ready for it. So I denied his suggestion. Here's a note for you. God will sometimes send people to send messages to you. And if you don't listen, God will turn the thermostat up on you by using other people to help you understand that there's a message. There was a message being given to you and you didn't listen. So be obedient. Don't be like me. Listen. Follow through. Okay. So A new owner came in who raised the booth rent up a couple times. 14.5% every 2 years. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? I'm gonna ask the bankers. The bankers in here.
Yes, that's a lot.
Okay. All right. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. So it was then that I understood what the message was. It was time to go. Yeah. And what I did some research. I had a trip to New York and walking in this neighborhood, I ran into a barber and I asked him what the rates were in New York at that time. They were lower. So it goes back to what I said about choosing your place. Do your homework. So in 2010, I started my own business. The first location I was on Capitol Boulevard. I stayed there for 6 years. Didn't have that much work to do to upfit the place. Then I moved to Trawick Road. Had a little bit of upfit to do there. And then in 2019, or right at 2020, there was an opportunity for me to purchase a space. But there was a lot of work to do. So I pulled my sleeves up and did work that I had no idea I could do. I asked God to speak to me and show me what I needed to do. I've never cut concrete before. I never dug holes for plumbing. But if you have that determination and you want to be successful, it doesn't matter what you have to do. You will find a way. And that included painting. So I do want to say that it was completed. Everything worked out. Also, I want to share with you, everybody here, that there are 3 great people that work with me here today. LaToya, Brandon, and Brittany. She goes by Bree. She likes Bree. So thank you guys for coming. And I want to go back to when those rates were going at 14.5%. One of the things that I said to myself when I was working with other people is that when there was an opportunity for me to come to ownership, that I would not price gouge people. So what I've placed in their contracts is a no increase clause, which gives everybody the opportunity to save money, make decisions that they would like to make, and know that I'm not someone who looks at them as a dollar bill. Okay. Before I went into, as I was going into this last location, I ran into someone who later became my mentor, and he helped me out tremendously. And one of the things that he said to me that I'll never forget, and you guys have probably heard it before, is that if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So no, it's not easy, but you can do it. What was fascinating about him, he was a man of means, and when I went to his home to meet with him, I was amazed at the home that he had, but it also inspired me. Here's some bonus information I want to give to you as well. If you have some dreams that you're wanting to start now. Start planning, start getting the right team around you, whether it's insurance agents, bankers, get a great CPA, get a great barber, and great hairstylist. Having the right team around you will move you in the area that you want to get to. And you're going to have the knowledge of people in their respective industries to direct you. There were mistakes that I could have made, but by having the right team around me helped out, guided me. I was able to learn from them. And structuring your business the right way. Also remember that when you're in business and you're working for yourself, the word liability was mentioned earlier. That little word means a lot. So make sure you are structuring your business properly for the fact that someday, if something does happen, that you're structured properly and that you won't be sued. Okay. So one of the biggest milestones that I also was able to get into and accomplish was real estate. Didn't know a lot about it, read up on it. So that was a dream of mine that I wanted to conquer. And it's not all about just getting the money. You have to do admin work and keeping things floating in the right direction. And then on last year, I did something that I'm very happy about, and that was a living trust. And if you guys don't know about that, do some research on living trust. It's really something that you should look at. And if it's not just for yourself or your family, want to just understand how to structure things to make sure you're being taken care of and your family are being taken care of as well. All right, here's some other highlights. Your mind has to be stronger than your feelings. Your feelings keep you in the bed. Your mind tell you to get up and accomplish your dreams. You should inspire you to be a mountain climber. Just don't be happy that you were able to step over a stone. Be a mountain climber. Dream. You also have to plan, to put a plan in place to overcome life's obstacles. It must also be a part of your daily conversation with the Lord and ask God to speak to you and show you your way. Your biggest investment, if you have a family, is your child or children, their education, and your education. And as I mentioned earlier, it's worth mentioning again, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And so if you have someone around you who is accomplishing some of their goals and dreams, applaud them. Be happy for them. It's easy to be upset and how they hey, they pulled their sleeves up and they went to work. You can do the same thing. Believe in you. There's a bank executive at my church. He spoke one Sunday. He said something that stayed with me until this day. So he said, never let anyone outwork you. It doesn't sound big and profound, but if you think about it, never let anyone outwork you, whether it is growing your business, believing in you, you have to go for it. Raise your profile. Marketing, marketing, marketing. Give the best of your life in order to get the best of your life. Invest in your health, exercise, take care of yourself. Every person who desires to be successful must have a team of people in their life. A mentor, pastor, a great banker, accountant. And I challenge you to get involved with some organization. Relationships matter. And a great insurance agent as well. Work on your spiritual growth, professional skill set, social awareness. Be a woman of purpose. Be a man of purpose. Step in your fullness. When you release, you gain. Here's an example. When you cry, you release endorphins. These feel-good chemicals help ease both physical and emotional pain. When you release from a tumultuous, unconducive relationship, you gain your peace and regain clarity. There's nothing like having composure of yourself. In order to reach perfection, your practice habits have to be consistent. In closing, remember to take on small tasks given to you. Take on a task like you love it. For sure, two things are going to happen as you do your assignment. You're being watched. And also you've been prepared for something greater. I want to thank Wake Tech, Fifth Third Bank, for having me. And I just want to say that with this little instrument right here has helped me build a legacy. So to the barbers, this is the start of your legacy. To the hairstylists, start your legacy as well. Thank you.
Please share my congratulations with Roger for his success and for the wisdom he shared. That was terrific. So we'll get started back with our panelists. I'm going to direct the microphone to Jessica to talk about insurance and risk management.
Yes, the fun stuff. So we all try to avoid getting sued as much as possible, correct? But sometimes we can't control it. Because as we all know, we live in a crazy world where people will sue over anything. Right, Josh?
Unfortunately, yes.
So it is your insurance agent's responsibility to make sure you have the proper coverage in place in case that does happen. Does anybody know what the foundation policy is for a business? No? General liability. Do you know that term? So what this does, general liability insurance is going to cover any injury, bodily injuries or property damage to your clients, as well as advertising injuries. If you are leasing a space, your landlord is going to require you to have this coverage. So there's no way of getting around it. Okay, so that's like your basic, every business owner should have that policy. The cool thing about y'all's profession, though, is you are considered a standard risk, which means you would qualify for what we call a business owner policy. And what that is a packaged insurance policy where that general liability coverage is included, as well as your business property. So your business property is going to cover things, anything inside of that space that you're leasing. So anything from equipment, computers, products, all of that can be covered under your business property. Okay, so it'll be one policy, but it will have your general liability coverage and it will also have your business property coverage. Now, if you own the space, you will need, or the building, you will need coverage on the actual structure of the building, right? So that would add to that business property coverage, okay? The cool thing about a business owner policy is it is very cost effective. So it can range, and of course, there's multiple factors that go into the rating of the premium on those policies, but they can range anywhere between $500 to $800 a year. If you've done your research yet, that's very cheap for a business owner policy, okay? The second thing that would be very important for you guys to carry is what we call professional liability insurance. And so in our industry, it's also known as errors and omissions insurance. So that's going to help cover legal expenses if your customer decides to sue you over unsatisfactory services. It can also help protect you if there's like a negative reaction to a product that you're using on them as well. So again, that is a separate coverage. But that I would say is very important for you guys to carry. And then the third thing is going to be workers' compensation insurance. So in North Carolina, if you have fewer than 3 employees, it is not required. Once you hit 3 employees, you have to carry workers' compensation insurance. Now, your attorney or your financial advisor may advise you that getting workers' comp, even with 1 employee, is probably a smart thing to do, okay? And what workers' compensation covers is any medical bills and lost wages to your employees if they're injured on the job, okay? So that's your 3 main important insurance policies that you're going to need. The things that are factored as far as what affects the premium and your rate, one of them, if you are currently a business owner and you carry insurance right now, they will look at your insurance history as well as prior claims. So those things can affect your rate. If you're a new owner, obviously you don't have either one of those things, so it's not going to affect it. The biggest factor in the rate is going to be your gross revenue. So your gross revenue is what you bring in before expenses. So that's how these policies are rated, okay? If you're a new business owner, a lot of times I get, Jessica, I don't know what I'm going to bring in. So it's just good to do your research ahead of time before you call for an insurance quote and know your numbers. And it's a guesstimate's fine. You're not going to know the exact number, especially if you're new. But then the following year on your renewal, when you get sent the renewal application to fill in that information, you'll have a better idea of what that number is, and the premium will be adjusted. The type of risk also affects the premium, which, as I just explained, the risk for you guys is very, well, what they consider low. So that's why you guys get a great rate. And then your coverage amount. So again, it depends on how much liability coverage you purchase, as well as how much business property coverage you purchase. The higher the coverage, the higher the rate. And then on the workers' compensation policy, what's factored into that rate is going to be number of employees as well as the payroll. Okay, so these policies do get audited at the end of each year. And yes, you have to fill out the audit or they will not renew you, okay? And they will ask for the proof of your payroll at the end of the year. So if you're a new business owner, you may not know that exact number, but be conservative, because at the end of the year, when you get that audit, if you lowballed it in the beginning, you are going to owe money at the end, because they're gonna charge you for the difference of what you should have been charged. But if you're conservative or your number was higher in the beginning, and then by the end of the year your payroll shows lower than what they were rating you at, you will get a refund. Okay, so those are the three main things and what affects the rate. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yes.
Just as far as LLC, isn't that a type of insurance for us? No.
No. That's just the structure. That's how your business is structured. And then, so if you're a 1099, sometimes depending on who you're working under, they may carry the insurance for you, but it's important to find out if they are or if they're not. Most of the time, especially like in the salon suites where you're renting your room and your booth, what I've seen is they do not cover that. You have to carry your own general liability insurance.
And I would just add that LLC can be a shell to help insulate you, but it's not an insurance policy. It's more a corporate structural element.
Your insurance policy will show the LLC name, as that will be the named insured on the policy, not your personal name.
She is your best friend. In the early stages, it will tell you that. And the best investment you can make in yourself, honestly.
I don't have a question, it's more of a statement.
Sure.
The insurance that I got, they didn't explain any of that. They just explained, oh, you just need this base insurance. They didn't talk about having, I don't need it. They didn't talk about having liability insurance. They didn't talk about, they didn't talk about having, workman's compensation. She didn't explain any of it. The company didn't explain the rest of the structure or different ways you can set yourself up for success. Because once again, if you are your own employee and you get hurt, if you don't have anything to cover yourself, you're not making any money, you're not going to pay any bills, you're going to be upset.
Yes. Can I ask who you got your insurance through? Okay. Did you call Progressive directly?
I did.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Get a local agent, guys. Get somebody who you can talk to personally. You may even be able to go into their office and sit down with them. You are going to get better service, better education on everything. Do not call a 1-800 number, okay? I sell through Progressive. So you can find an independent agent that represents these companies that have 1-800 numbers that you can call, but it will not only save you money and also protect you accurately, but it could also, what was I going to say? My mind just went completely blank.
I was just going to say
save you time. I'm sorry, save you time.
This is a great example of what Roger spoke about. Surround yourself with the right people, not only from a personal standpoint, but from a professional standpoint. That's a good distinction. That's a great question. Thank you.
Can I chime?
No, my apologies. Actually, I may just pin off this and I'll get back to you. One of the biggest things, just keep this in mind, actually. Your first line of defense is going to be your insurance agent and your policy. Oftentimes, they may be able to resolve an issue without you having to hire a lawyer. So just keep that in mind. They will vigorously defend any claims because they're at risk as well. So really, it's very good to make sure you address that. Try to avoid engaging a lawyer if you need to. You're very welcome. My apologies.
Now, I'm going to chime in on what you said about them not telling you just in case you get sick or something like that. So it's two different types of insurance that you're looking at for if you get sick. So that person wouldn't have talked to you about that part. Someone like me would have talked to you about that part. When you're looking at specific types of insurance when it comes to working with a business, you're also going to want to look at something called business overhead expense. Has anyone heard of that before? Okay, so for the business overhead expense insurance, that's going to protect you against things like, you know, if you do get sick, who is going to pay the rent for your place? How are you going to continue to get your deliveries coming in? Who's going to pay your employees? Those are some of the things that you need to kind of look at. If you do have a business and you have employees, you have monthly expenses for those, for that business, that those expenses will not stop just because you cannot be there. You know, they're going to continue to come. So in order to make sure that that is protected, you want something like a business overhead expense policy. So there's different types. So we're looking at the business overhead expense, that's going to protect you against those expenses that you cannot make because you're not there, right? There's money being lost, you're not there, there's not someone that can actually take the place of you. Right? So you want to make sure that then there's your life insurance policies, right? Whether you're paying into those policies to fund your retirement or not, you could be. All of a sudden, you can't do that anymore. So these things have to be structured properly for anything, any reason that you would be able to, you know, not be there to be able to provide for those insurance policies. So when you are picking someone and choosing someone, you have to choose someone that's knowledgeable and who you can actually give a call to. That is so important, what you said. Sure.
Okay, based on what both of you have expressed concerning insurance, as a new business person, what question does the individual need to ask to get the wealth of knowledge? Because if I'm a new business person, I don't know to ask that question. So how do you suggest, as new beginners, they ask that question to the insurance company?
First thing that I would say is, can you tell me about the policies that are offered to businesses? What are those policies that are offered?
Thank you. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah, and I would encourage you to speak to more than one person. Say, how can you help me? You know, what's your value proposition, or how do you advise your clients, that sort of thing, and interview 2 or 3 people. And find somebody, it's always nice to find somebody that you just get along with, right? Because you have that choice. You're the buyer, you get to choose. But also somebody who, one, has the service offering you need and the experience and expertise that you need.
You have one more here. She had a question right before the break.
Can I just comment really quick? Find somebody that does exactly what you're going to be doing, that's already a business owner, and find out what they currently have too, okay? Because they're also experienced and they may have failed in that area where they can, teach you and cover those gaps.
Hi, I have 2 questions, if that's okay. So the first question I have is for record keeping. What software should a new business owner start off with to keep up with their finances? And the second question is, I'm super excited on this new journey, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people that come to you are super excited about starting out and don't really think about the failure or the obstacles that they're gonna come across. So just working with people that either have came across obstacle or now they're in trouble and they came to you, what are some things that you came across, or people that they want to do it the right way and they came to come see you guys first? What are some things that you guys came across to help? What are some things that we should think about that we may not, we just are excited about the journey, but we're not thinking about the failure or the part that people are not really thinking about to protect themselves, or I don't know if they make sense, but what are some things that
you're asking about our experience as a business owner, pretty much. So your first question, I mean, I'm not a financial advisor or CPA, but I personally use QuickBooks Online. And I feel like that's a pretty big platform that a lot of business owners use.
Right. So I am a financial advisor, and she's absolutely correct. Yeah, I when I help businesses start, because I do also do business development and consulting, and sometimes I'll get clients that are just wanting to start their business from scratch. They have a big idea. With those big ideas, there comes big problems sometimes, right? So in order to solve those things, we have to kind of lay things down and kind of figure out, okay, where do we go first? First is making sure that you have the right tools that you need, the right tools that you need to set up your business properly. And a QuickBooks Online is something that's going to be great for somebody that is starting out a business, right? There's not that much money coming in, right? And there isn't that much that you need to, be on top of, so that's easier. But down the line, there's going to come a time where it's not going to be the QuickBooks that you need online. You may need to hire a CPA. You need someone that's going to actually comb into those finances and make sure that everything is correct. Because lots of times when you're looking at CPAs or you're looking at financial advisors, they work together in unison. Sometimes when I work with a CPA to help a business client, lots of times CPAs, they're very black and white. They look at it and they say, oh, it goes here and it goes here. And that's the way that they are, very black and white. But as an advisor, I will look at it and I will look at it strategically. And I will say, well, wait a minute. We have a book of IRS laws here. I'm not a CPA, but let's comb through these and see where we can put this, where we can put this, where we can put that, and where we can put that. And then we'll build around what we need to build around
Keep
to make
me in
sure.
the gray.
Yes. Well, we're not doing anything wrong, right? The IRS has given us these laws that we can follow, and it's all about strategy and making sure that you are doing it in such a way that it is right, you're doing it the right way, but you're not leaving money on the table, because who's gonna have that money if you don't have it? The IRS is gonna have that money, and Uncle Sam's gonna have that money.
Actually, if I may jump in here, I would like to speak to the concept of the IRS and your question regarding software and record keeping. One of the things that I do, I represent clients that deal with tax issues, specifically sales and use in North Carolina. They can be very aggressive, and as well as the IRS. So record keeping is absolutely, really the most important thing to do. QuickBooks Online, and I'll speak to that, is a format that's used by most, okay? Depending on where you are in your finances as you're starting out, if you can't afford it, the smartest thing to do, and I'll give you some advice because you can then seek consultation from other people such as CPAs, take a spreadsheet, create 2 columns, income and expenses. Find and assign logical categories, whether it's a product or if it's web design or if it's communications for your phone. 1 for communications, 2 for internet, 3 for rent. And just get into the habit once a week or whatever your schedule permits, get into the habit of just having an administrative day to make sure you get that stuff in there, in the spreadsheet. This way you can immediately sum it on each side and kind of get a quick shot as to where you are. You'll always have a tool to provide if you're audited, to your financial advisors and to your bankers. But get into that habit. And any receipts that you save, I can't tell you how many clients that I have that lose track of them. Get into the habit of scanning them. You'll be surprised, your iPhone and all of your phones that you have scanning applications on there that are free. Get into the habit once a week, just even if you scan them, even if they're a mess, save them digitally. Date them by the month or the day or the week. You're gonna need them one day, I'm gonna tell you, and you'll have them. It might be annoying to have to go through it, but you'll save yourself expense. So if you can use QuickBooks, great. If you can't, start with a spreadsheet, keep really good records, and then you can seek consultations from folks who can help you make it meaningful.
Keep good records,
Yes.
however you do it.
Yeah, one of the receipt apps that I used when I first started out was called Smart Receipts. Highly recommend it. Super easy and user friendly.
So I would like to call an audible. We have two more presenters. We have about 15 minutes, and I want to make sure we move on. But why don't we take that question, then we're going to go to David.
I have an insurance question. As the barber and beauty industry is continuously evolving, we're going into a place, even with estheticians, with mobile barbering. And so I wanted to know if there was something that insurance companies are thinking or developing a product that is specifically for mobile barbering, especially since there are, people are barbering in trailers now. They're building them just like they're building food trucks. And so since you have
Yeah.
something that's pretty much like comparable to a food truck, seeing that if your truck doesn't work, you
Right.
can't really, if the generator goes out or whatever the case may be, are you guys developing a product that's specifically for mobile barbering?
Honestly, I have not come across that yet, that risk, to actually research it. It will definitely be insurable, but I can tell you this, it's not going to be a standard risk. So meaning we're going to be looking in the non-standard carriers, your premium is going to be much higher. I feel like once a profession becomes popular or something is more common, that's when they start building those business owner policies like I was talking about earlier, for those products. But if it's not super popular yet or it's not very common, they just haven't built that business owner product yet for that.
So I'd like to address a couple of things we've touched on a handful of times from a banking aspect. So one, the corporate structure we've talked about, whether it be an LLC or sole proper or 1099, and then also risk, both management and mitigation. From a corporate structure business-wise, I'm 100% on board with the advice that you heard to form some kind of layer of protection, whether that's an LLC or another form of corporate protection. But protecting yourselves individually from anybody ever coming after your personal assets is very important. From a banking logistical point of view, though, I do want to address it. So the longer you guys operate as a sole proprietor, as a 1099, or operating under your social security number, your brand or the business you're building is under that tax reporting social security number. So then when you form an LLC, you're actually now forming a new tax entity. So in the banking world, you've kind of just restarted your brand in theory with us banking wise. So we can speak to your revenues and your profits you had as a sole proprietor, but when you go lending, you've started a new entity and a new business. So it kind of starts over the risk level from a banking aspect. So depository wise, you need to start over with banking accounts because you can't just shift from a social security number into an EIN.
So you mean like basically how people want to get loans?
Yeah.
You basically won't have any history with the bank anymore.
So you're going to start, in theory, when you form that LLC, you started the business on that day, and so the bank's going to look at it as that starting origination date. Now, we can speak to what you've done in the past, but it's more of a story than actual hard data.
Yeah, so it's like somebody might say it, but they're probably going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, we can say that probably is going to happen again because you're the same individual doing the same thing, but we can't guarantee it, and we don't have historical data to back it up. So the sooner you form the brand that you're going to build forever, the better. And again, from a depository point of view, we can't just flip a social security number and an EIN, so we'd have to start over checking account wise too. So there are some logistical impacts to when you make that change. Record retention, I know we've joked about it, but it is the most serious thing you can do from beginning till later. And you asked specifically what system, any system you're going to use. So QuickBooks is probably the one you're going to hear the most often, but I run into people that don't like it and they don't use it because they don't like it. Well, then find something you like, because if you don't use it, it's not helpful and it's not going to help you. For the salon owners, you're going to start to see more embedded software in your scheduling systems. So as you buy point of sale systems dedicated for your salons, You're going to see software embedded for not just your merchant processing, but your accounts receivable, your payables. So if that system is where you want to track everything, so be it, but just track everything. It's important in the beginning to know how successful you are as being an entrepreneur and whether you're making money. But down the road, when you go to grow out of an independent space or renting space or a space you're renting from a landlord into buying your own real estate, we need that to help tell the story. And the cleaner it is and the better it is, the less risk it is. So again, risk management, risk mitigation. When it comes to lending down the road, when you guys look to buy your own buildings, risk is what it all comes down to. Lending is about risk. So the less risk we can present, the better terms you can get, the better pricing you can get. It's just easier all around.
David, if you set up a separate business account from your personal accounts, isn't that a great way to help from a record-keeping standpoint, just because you have the inflows and outflows?
Yeah, I would recommend separating your personal expenses and business expenses as soon as you can. CPAs are great individuals, and I recommend you find one that you trust, but ones that are really good cost money, and there's a reason they cost money. So the more you can do on the front end to reduce the amount of effort and time they have to spend working through all of your data, it's just going to be more affordable.
Would you like to go ahead?
I like Grace. Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, David, thank you, Preston. David, that's a great segue, because I was going to talk about the importance of separating your personal and business. And I encountered that all the time at the branches, because people think once they start a business that they can still just use their personal account. But sometimes, your personal account, you're joint with someone and you have your personal bills coming out of there that's automated, and you're also using your debit card. So it could really disrupt your finances, and it's gonna affect your business big time. So less stress and keeping it simple. You should just definitely separate it. And also for Fifth Third, as I mentioned earlier, it's the relationship. Someone asked, well, I don't know what questions I need to ask. Well, that's what we do at Fifth Third. We do a consultative approach. So for your personal, we ask you how you do your banking, what accounts you have, what the balances are, your assets, liabilities. Same thing with the business. We ask you what you want to accomplish for your business, and things like that. And we can introduce you to partners such as David or Brian if you want to own a home as a business owner. We also have partners for merchant services, people that can help you accept debit and credit card payments so you can have that record. We also have partners in payroll. So I can be your point of contact. And the best thing is our personal and business accounts at Fifth Third, there's no balance requirement. So it's free. Sometimes even at the credit union, you have to maintain 500. Otherwise, you're gonna get charged a fee every month. So we don't have that. So I encourage you guys to get one of my business cards later. I would love to help you.
Thank you, Grace.
I have a quick question. So what if you've already started this process but now you've learned so much more, so you kind of need to start over?
So you're talking about.
When I say process, I mean like getting the LLC, trying to separate the business and personal with the business checking account and all that. And you started school in January and you just learned so much. So you kind of need to start over.
Yeah. So what I would do is ask you about your individual case, your personal goals, your business goals, and we'll go from there. So what I'll do is, if you're an LLC, I'm gonna ask you for your EIN number and articles of organization. But more than that, find out what your goals are. Maybe I can recommend a business checking and a business savings so that we can separate, your everyday expenses, and the savings would be for if you want to set aside some money for your taxes or a business goal that you want to accomplish. Some people even, as their business grows, they want to separate their checking accounts. So 2 different checking accounts, one for general, one for payroll, and things like that. So it's all a case-by-case basis. But what I find is people just get an account that's free, either online or their bank that they're currently in, but do they actually have a consultation with you? Do they actually follow up with you and find out, hey, how are you doing with this? Let me help you with that. I can share with you the resources and tips and best practices that will help you. So it's more of a relationship, and I think that's the most important thing.
Question. So, Ms. Grace, if one of our students that is already a stylist or a barber wanted to open a business but does not have a relationship with Fifth and Third, they come and ask for a consultation, will they get Ms. Danica financial advising at a rate, or is this something that comes with a business account, or can you give them guidance at what point do our students or graduates need to come up with a business plan, and is this something that Ms. Danica will help with?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. So other banks, I don't see any banks that really do a lot of community work like Fifth Third does, and you'll see it a lot on LinkedIn. So what we do is we do a lot of networking, we do a lot of financial education proactively. My team and I do that a lot. At Hayes Barton, we provide budgeting classes, credit classes. Brian helps with home buying classes, but we introduce you to our network of people. I met Danica through networking, Jessica, and everyone else here. So because we're having this panel for you guys, so you can come and see me, and then I can introduce you. They're gonna give you their business cards as well. But I like connecting people with the people in my network. Well, I know someone who does a great job with bookkeeping. I know someone who does business coaching, and they do it for free, especially for business startups. And they give you advice for free. It's all about helping each other succeed. But I'm glad you brought that up. You also mentioned the business plan, because Fifth Third works with Wake Tech, right? We do financial classes for the Wake Tech employees. So one of them is, you have a digital platform for creating a business plan. So we actually have a template that you can use and fill it out, because someone mentioned it earlier that all these ideas are in your head, but you haven't written it down. Well, the key points of having a business plan, it's basically, it's a proactive approach for your company's growth. You write everything down, and the different parts of it is an executive summary, which is basically an overview of your business plan, the company description, a brief description of the company, but it needs to be compelling enough, like an elevator speech, to keep your audience engaged. There's also organization and management. So that area provides detail about how your company operates. And then it talks about also your products and services, your marketing and sales strategy, and financial information. So you should write those things down as a business plan, and it should be up to 3 years. But we can help you with things like that.
And I would just speak up and say that I've attended and participated in a number of Grace's after-hours organizations, and one of the most remarkable ones she had was on interviewing and resume prep. Well, I've been around a long time. Just because I've been around a long time, I've been involved with a lot of recruiting and hiring, and it was incredible how much I learned at that. I've seen a lot of resumes, and I left there really impressed, because she had assembled a panel that was composed of hiring managers and recruiters from some really big companies right here in Raleigh. And so that's just one example of some of the workshops she does after work. And so I'm proud to call her a colleague. Thank you.
Thank you, Preston. And also, I want to turn it over to Brian, because he's the one who really organized this event, and he has a wealth of knowledge. A lot of business owners have a hard time. Let's say you're starting off now, right? He'll give you advice on what to do so that later on, if you want to be a homeowner, it's more achievable.
Thank you, Grace. So this has been incredible, and I really want to just take the time to say thank you to each and every one of you. Hopefully, this is something that you can take with you that will germinate and grow your business as you continue to be successful. So, what I focus on with Fifth Third is helping people to get into homes. And one of the big things with 1099s, as was mentioned earlier, or a self-employed person, the mindset is I can grow my business, but can I buy a home? And what is the difference between a W-2 employee and a self-employed or a 1099 individual? How does the bank look at that? And it is very different. It is very different. I hear from self-employed people, well, I need to have 20% down. I can't do that because I'm building my business. And so I'm going to rent. And I'm going to, matter of fact, if my mama would let me stay with her, I'm going to stay with her as I build my business. So we don't want that to happen. Your mama don't want that to happen. She wants you to be in your own home, right? And so as you think about building your business, also think about how can I get into my home? Will that help me, as I build my business? And yes, it will. It gives you the assets when you come and sit down with your banker. It shows that you have credibility as far as financial awareness because you are in your home. Does it take a tremendous down payment, 20%, to get into a home if I'm a self-employed business owner? No. The answer is no. It doesn't take 20%. You can buy a home with 3% down and be a self-employed business owner. There's programs out here for first-time home buyers, $50,000. We can help you to get into your home if you're a first-time business owner. $50,000. Everybody should be smiling about that, right? Yeah, 50 grand. All you got to do is talk to me, and I can tell you how to make that happen. So you don't need a ton of money to buy a home to help your business grow. Does owning a home help your business? Yes, it does. Because now you have something in that asset column that you're keeping records on. You have something that can show that banker that, yes, I have assets, which is really important. So becoming a home buyer, I would say that's the first thing that you should consider. Now, when I say that you need very little money down, remember I'm a banker. You need money. You need money in your bank account. So I always tell anyone that I'm working with, save the pennies because the dollars will follow. Save the pennies. A lot of people say, I can't save anything. I'm running a business. It's hard for me to save.
You can't afford not to.
You can't afford not to. Save your pennies. You save your pennies, the dollars will follow. And you can get into a solid base of home ownership. That solidifies you, it helps you, it makes your mama happy. And guys, let me tell you something, it will make you happy. It will make you happy because now you have an opportunity to build equity, you have an opportunity to build wealth. You can pull from that home once you have it for a while. Someone said, can I use my insurance to borrow against? You can borrow against your home. You can borrow against that. That's monies that you can use to support your business. Without a home, it's very difficult to build that foundation. So we can talk one-on-one. I'm available. William wants me to come into your class, as Maribel wants me to come into her class. I'm willing to do that on an individual basis. If you want to get with me, my cards are available out here on the table. I got $50,000 I would like to give to each and every one of you. Is that exciting? Yes. When's the last time a guy that looked like me told you that I could give you $50,000? Let's make it happen. Thank you guys so much.
How about an applause for all of our panelists? So a personal anecdote. The primary way that people in this country build wealth starts with owning a home. the primary way. We all need savings, cash savings, all that kind of stuff. But over the long term, most people build wealth through the ownership of their home. And other things happen beyond that. So that should be a goal. And in Raleigh, that's a tough goal. But there are ways around that. And so you have your experts. I encourage you to speak with them after the program. But before we end, to close this out, I'd like to introduce Jeffrey Merritt, Doctor of Education and Dean of Community and Career Education.
Well, we are at the end of the summit, and on behalf of Wake Tech, I do want to thank Preston and Fifth Third Bank for coming in here and volunteering their time to come and share their expertise and their knowledge with you. Everything they shared with you as you graduate and move on and open up your own businesses, you're going to run across all these topics, and hopefully you got some insight and some ideas of who you're going to contact to help you, and what the next steps are and what you're going to run into. So seriously, on behalf of Wake Tech, thank you for coming in here and sharing. And this is something this is our first time doing this. And so I can see, my vision is we do this at least annually. And it can be bigger and better, each and every time. So thank you again. Let's give them a round of applause. Second, I want to thank Mr. White for sharing his story. You may have been talking to some beauty and barber experts out here, but you also touched the folks that, like myself, that are not in the beauty and barber industry. So your words carried a long way today. So thank you for coming, Mr. White, and sharing your stories. I also want to thank the students who made this summit a success. I know you could be in class now, but you chose to come here, and I know you're glad you did because you got a lot of good information here. So for the students out there, thank you for coming. Both curriculum and non-curriculum workforce continuing education. So thank you for coming here. There's a lot of people here that joined us today that are not in our classes that came and learned some things here. So the sacrifice you made to get here, we want to thank you also for coming here today and making this summit a success. So with that said, also too, I have to give a shout out. This session is recorded, so I want to thank our media folks here that are recording the sessions and making it available to folks that are not able to be here. So the recording, we're going to put it on both our cosmetology and barbering web pages. So we'll get those out as soon as we can. So if you know someone who wasn't able to come, but they want to benefit from this great knowledge and wealth of knowledge and experience we have on our panel, please let them know that the recording's on its way. So with that said, thank you again for coming here. Thank you again for making this a success. You're all welcome to come back to next year's session, even if you graduated. And with that said, we'll end the summit. All right, thank you.